പൗരസ്ത്യ ക്രിസ്തീയ സഭകളിൽ പ്രമുഖമാണ് സിറിയൻ ഓർത്തഡോക്സ് ചർച്ച്. ആഗോള സിറിയൻ ഓർത്തഡോക്സ് ചർച്ചിൻ്റെ പരമാധ്യക്ഷനായ പരിശുദ്ധ ഇഗ്നേഷ്യസ് എഫ്രേം ദ്വിതീയനാണ് ഇന്ന് നമ്മുടെ അതിഥി. വെൽക്കം ടു കേരള, വെൽക്കം ടു ഏഷ്യാനെറ്റ് ന്യൂസ്.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. You are very familiar to Kerala. You have come here many times, even before you assumed this particular position. What is the importance of Kerala to your church and to you personally?
First, this is my first time as a patriarch to come to Kerala, but I have been here several times. I have been here to visit friends, to visit churches, all the places, and I have even been here to do some, to undergo some Ayurveda treatment, which helped a lot. It's good to be in Kerala. I like the place because I like the people of Kerala. Of course, St. Thomas, the apostle, came in the 1st century, and he brought with him faith, but also culture, and his culture was Syriac Aramaic, the language of Jesus. But then after that, several waves of what we call today missionaries, but they were not really missionaries there. They came to live here and to strengthen the church in India. Of course, the most famous is the mission that came in 340 AD from Edessa, Urfa.
Right. That's 4th century.
That's 4th century. They came under the leadership of a bishop called Joseph, and several priests, total of 70 families, came to India because they knew there were Christians on the coast of Malabar. They came to help the local Christians, and they intervened with the Maharaja of the area.
That's right.
And because of that, he granted the Christians in Kerala one of the highest castes in India.
Right.
Back then, there was the caste system.
Right.
So they came here, and since then, the relationship with the Patriarchate grew and became stronger. And there was always fathers from what we call Shema here,
Right.
the land of Sam, which is the land of the Middle East, Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, Turkey.
Right.
They used to come here, usually sent by the Patriarchate, to fulfill the spiritual needs of our people in Kerala.
Right.
So when I come here, I come to see my children, my spiritual children. I
That's
come to
So
my church.
You come from Syria and you belong to this particular place, but Syria right now is going through a very, very difficult stage. When it's going through suffering, it's going through pains. So what is the state at that, you particularly Syria and the nearabouts of that place?
Syria was a model in religious tolerance and acceptance of each other. We Christians in Syria never felt that we were persecuted or treated as second class or anything. Actually, many times we felt that we were treated better than our Muslim brothers and sisters in Syria by the government.
That's right.
So no one can complain that Syria persecutes Christians, at least I'm talking about the last 50, 60 years.
Okay.
However, what happened in Syria, I personally still do not understand. I don't think many people understand. They were claiming that it started about human rights, democracy, and lack of freedoms, but we didn't see. But the people who championed these attacks and who helped and supported these terrorists are not particularly known for their record of democracy and human rights.
Exactly.
Talking about countries in the Gulf area
Exactly.
and others.
Right.
So that doesn't make sense, really.
Right.
But what happened is very soon, the situation there emerged as one of people doing jihad in Syria.
Exactly.
Doing jihad usually attracts the fanatics from all over the world. Right now in Syria, there are terrorists from more than 100 nations doing jihad in Syria.
I think the Islamic State is actually not unleashing its terror not just on other Christians or other communities, but their own fellow Muslims who belong to another sect, perhaps.
Yes, ISIS is targeting not only Christians, targeting everyone who doesn't agree with them, their way of thinking and their way of interpreting the text. And it's a big problem for Muslims. And we ask. Usually when we meet with Muslim leaders, whether political or religious, we tell them, you have a duty now to come out and to not only dissociate yourselves from what's happening, but to come out with a proper, acceptable, and moderate interpretation of Islam.
Are they doing that?
I'm afraid they are not doing enough. I'm afraid they are doing. It took the Azhar institution, and you know Azhar is a leading Islamic institution. It took them to see the pilot, the Jordanian pilot, being burnt in a most horrible way, to say that ISIS should be punished, should be killed, this and that. Previously,
they didn't say anything.
Previously, we asked them, please come out and say this ISIS and what they do, them and other terrorists, what they do is unacceptable, is prevented, is haram in Islam. They would not do that. So there is responsibility laid on the shoulders of Muslim religious leaders and also politicians to come out and to say that this is wrong and should not continue.
What about it? Just 2 years back, 2 of your archbishops were kidnapped, and I think, you know, even the international opinion or global opinion has not quite addressed this issue.
You are absolutely right. The international community is not addressing it, and we have demanded, we have called for action during our meetings with the heads of states, during our meetings with churches and organizations. We have asked them to please do something, because we don't consider the kidnapping of the 2 archbishops as personal issue to do with 2 persons, no matter how prominent these persons are. We think the kidnapping of the 2 archbishops is a message to all Christians in the Middle East that you are not welcome there,
right,
that you should not stay there. Because when you strike the shepherd, what happens to the flock? They disperse.
Absolutely. So what is the state now? Have the, you know, the people who belong to other communities, like maybe Christians or Orthodox, you know, is there a complete sort of migration or exodus from those places now to a better, you know, safer places now?
There is migration not only by Christians, but even Muslims are leaving Syria and Iraq. But Christians, because of their numbers, because of their small numbers, of course, the number of Christians that leaves, it's usually high. I can say that probably 1/3 of Christians in Syria have already left, and more than 2/3 of Christians in Iraq have left. More than 2/3, and that is very high.
Absolutely. It is the centenary year of the Sayfo, you know, when the Ottoman Turks actually, you know, unleashed a genocide in this part of in Syria and Turkey and nearabouts. So this is the 2015 is a centenary year, and strangely the community and the world is actually going through almost similar kind of experience in this Syria and Turkey. What is your take on this?
That's exactly how we portray what's happening actually in our literature, in our discussions. We ask ourselves, are we going through a new Sayfo? And many of us are convinced that this is a new Sayfo. The only difference is the Sayfo in 1915 was committed by the Ottoman Empire and the Kurdish tribes who were around us with orders from Istanbul, and the world was silent. But the world had an excuse. Most of the world did not hear or know about this until later.
And the First World War was on at that
time.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. But today, what excuse the world has
Absolutely.
not to respond to this, to what's happening in the Middle East? Yes, it's a new Sayfo, and it's being done, committed right underneath the eyes of the whole world, or the entire community. And we are very sad. Christians in the Middle East are very sad that they do not find solidarity and support from Western countries, and but in particular also we do not find enough support from our Christian brothers and sisters. Not that they don't want to help us, but they are not coming out
You have lived in United States for a long time.
Yes.
And what has been the attitude of United States government? Normally, this is the government which actually intervenes wherever you have, terror and such kind of violence. So, have you been trying to get the United States support or at least attention to your problems?
We were meeting with President Obama last September, 5 of us religious leaders from the Middle East. We met with him and we explained to him the situation, and we asked him to intervene. And we asked him to do something about the situation, not only in defense of Christians, but in defense of human rights, of humanity. Absolutely. Because what's happening in the Middle East is there is an assassination for culture, for human life. Absolutely. As we know it, for civilization, right. All this. Now, of course, there is a coalition that is going on fighting ISIS.
Right.
But if you look at this, I believe it's not a serious attempt.
Right.
It took the United States and the coalition then less than 30 days to oust Saddam Hussein and change the whole scenario. It took them less than 6 months to change things in Libya. Now it has been 7-8 months since they started fighting or attacking ISIS, and nothing really materialized.
Absolutely.
So United States goes in places to where there is violence to help. I don't believe they go there to help innocent people and bystander. They go there because they have interest there.
That is right.
Politics is based on interest, not on friendship and not on human rights issues or concerns that we know.
Now, let's come back to Kerala now, because you are a great champion of ecumenism. You were in the leadership of World Council of Churches. And but strangely, Kerala, where you have a very important church, but this the kind of internal fratricidal war has been going on for more than 2 centuries now. Even now, some of the most important historic institutions have been lying closed for many months, and almost created a law and order situation somewhere. Some of the top leaders of your church were actually on the street agitating for their rights. So you were a champion of ecumenism. You have been trying for Christian unity all over the world, but your small church here is actually riven by divisions and wars. Mm-hmm. But interestingly, for the first time, the other faction actually has welcomed your visit, because they are saying, I just interviewed about a week back the Catholicos. He was saying you are a champion of peace and unity. So we really hope that peace is going to come back to the church. What is your take? And even today, he has issued a statement welcoming whatever you said yesterday, that the church, the Orthodox group, will be in full support to help you to bring about unity here. So what is your take about it?
Well, let me start first by differentiating between ecumenism and internal division. Ecumenism is to do with churches of different tradition and different theological background, such as Orthodox and Catholic, Orthodox Protestant. And that, thank God, we have very good relationship with all these churches, and we are working with all of them to even get closer together. But we have a problem here in India, yes, in our church, and we are sad about that. And we are suffering. We as Patriarch and bishops do not suffer much really, as the ordinary people are suffering. The people from both sides are suffering, because this division has created walls and divided families, especially in times of grief and celebrations, that they cannot be together, they cannot bury their dead respectfully and honorably that it should be. So this situation is not good for anybody, and I don't believe personally that anyone is happy with this on either side. Now, there are some people who may not be 100% in support of our efforts because they may have some motives, but majority of the people on both sides and majority of the clergy and the hierarchy on both sides want peace. I'm sure of that. And I, as a patriarch of this church, which goes back, as we mentioned earlier, which goes back to the beginning of Christianity and having a relationship with Malankara since then. And by the way, all Christians in Malankara used to be known as Syrian Christians.
That is right.
Because that's how they started.
Even now,
if they are Protestant and Catholic, they are still Syrian Christians because they have been in relationship with the Syrian Orthodox Church for many centuries. Now, this division started around 1912, so yeah, it is more than 1 century. But this division has to be to come to an end, and we can do it
So, what could be the concrete steps that you would like to initiate, or any particular formula that you envisage to find a solution to this? Because this has been going on, and many leaders of the church, actually, as you said, they are actually for peace, and they have been talking about peace, talking about compromises, but nothing on the ground has actually happened.
Let me state clearly, this division is a sin in the church.
Right.
We have to repent of it.
Absolutely.
It's a sin because God does not want his church to be divided. God does not want to see people fighting and suffering. That's not how Christ wanted his church. So we have to do all that we can to mend things and to bring about peace. And peace is of utmost importance for our parishioners here in Kerala and throughout the world. Malayalis all over the world are living the same experience of division and problems. So we have to do something. And
will you be meeting some people from the other section?
I cannot claim that I'm better than my predecessors in bringing about peace. And I cannot claim that I am more passionate about it than them. But I know something, that I will not rest until peace is established here in our church. Now, I will do whatever it takes to bring peace, peace that is based on dignity for everybody, on honor and respect. Because we are talking about more than 100 years of heritage. Let's call it. Unfortunately, it is part of our heritage now. And we cannot change things or go back to 1912 to make things the way they were.
So are you willing to meet some of them?
I'm willing to meet anybody.
Right.
Usually, meeting people should be a pleasure, even if people who do not agree with you. However, we have to be very sensitive to the situation the way it is. Right. I'm not going to close my door in front for
more than
anybody.
anything, I think it has brought down the image of the church in front of the public eyes.
It did, and we as bishops and clergy, we should take responsibility for that, and that's why we should do whatever we can. Now, peace at the end has to be established here in Malankara. Meaning that both factions have to be able to live together in peace, in harmony. Now, what solution will not come down from the patriarchate and force on the people? We cannot do that, and it's not reasonable.
It is
to do
reported that you said that even the courts cannot bring peace.
Absolutely. The court can bring a settlement of issues, legal issues. Who owns this church, who owns that cemetery, but can it bring peace to the minds and hearts of the people? I doubt it. I don't believe that. Now, we are serious about pushing the peace process, and we will do it.
Very good.
But again, as I said, we will do it in a dignified way where everybody feels comfortable. Now, that may mean to have two entities side by side, having the same faith, sharing in the same traditions, and having full communion, and work together on brotherly and sisterly basis.
Right.
Now, one of them may be in full communion with the in full relationship with the patriarch. The other will decide whether they want to stay the way they are right now legally. They recognize the Patriarch of Antioch as the spiritual head.
Right.
And I'm talking about the Orthodox faction, of course.
Right.
Now it will be up to them to decide whether they want to continue that relationship, for which we are more than open to, to receive and to promote, or if they want to, if they'd like to choose otherwise, we'll also be fine with that, as long as the so-called, what's called the Jacobite faction, is also allowed to choose and to make their own decision in relation to their ties with the Patriarchate of Antioch. So whatever the situation, whatever the agreement is here in Kerala, we'll happily accept it and support it. We will also do our best to facilitate the dialogue, because we may need to intervene in a friendly way to set up the stage or to facilitate such a dialogue, and we are ready for that. And for that reason, the committee, the Holy Synod, local synod, decided to constitute yesterday.
Oh, I see.
Yes, there was a committee. We had a local, the synod met in session yesterday. We preside over the synod, and there was a suggestion to come up with committee in response to my appeal to the fathers of the synod to do something practical and tangible about this, and the committee was established, and we are very serious about it. And this committee is committed to sit down with a committee from the Orthodox group also, and to discuss terms of peace. So this committee, because of our interest and our eagerness, we are also proposing to send representatives from the Patriarch to accompany the work of this committee and to facilitate anything that is needed to promote and to strengthen this dialogue. So I'm very hopeful that this dialogue will lead us somewhere, because this is God's will. And if we try to do God's will, it will happen.
So this can be considered as one of the most important missions that you are going to undertake as the Patriarch.
I consider it to be one of the most pressing issues that I should take.
Right.
Doesn't matter what history will tell about, but what matters for me is to see our people, our spiritual children here, not fighting each other, rather living together in peace and in harmony. That's very important.
You know, India has a new government here, a new prime minister. So unfortunately, some of the churches in Delhi and around were actually attacked, and there have been apprehensions or expressions of fear about being religious harmony, because this particular government belongs to, or it's led by, a party which is closer to one particular community than anything else. So what is your opinion about it? And as you know, President Obama has actually made a very strong message saying that how important is religious harmony to India as well as the entire democratic world. As one of the leaders of one of the most important churches right now in India and elsewhere, what is your message? What is your take about the entire thing?
I'm sorry to hear about attacking these churches, and of course we condemn all kinds of violence against any religious place, whether Christian, Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, anything, because we believe all these places are sacred to their people, so we should respect that. However, it shows us something very important, that terrorism, fanaticism are borderless. They cannot be contained in one area, and certain governments, Western governments, should take lesson that if they support terrorists in one country or another, they themselves will suffer from it later. And we are seeing that. We are seeing that.
Right. There are many experiences to prove this.
However, India is known for for its toleration and
harmony and
acceptance of each other. And I wouldn't say I'm shocked, but I'm surprised that it has come this malaise, this fatigue, or this sickness has come to India also, and it's actually materializing in reality, and places are being attacked. Of course, we heard of such attacks in the past also, in the last 20 years almost. We heard individual cases of violence against religious institutions, but that for me doesn't represent the real India.
Exactly.
It doesn't represent the spirit of Gandhi, for example, who called for resistance, but non-violent. Even in politics, not only in religion, in politics, he didn't want the Indian people to take up arms and go and fight the British. They want them to walk and to protest and to boycott until they get their rights. That is the India we know. That's the India which champions the human rights of everyone. That's the India we expect to see, and to the India that gives respect to every community, regardless of faith, of ethnicity, of caste, of religion. I believe there is a responsibility laid on the shoulder of the Indian government, and I will definitely mention that to the President and the Prime Minister when we meet in Delhi next week. There is a responsibility to educate people, to make people aware, especially the young people. That responsibility is also shared by the religious leaders of all religions, to talk to the young, to the kids, to show them that this is not the way things should happen, should be done. We are all brothers and sisters in humanity. God created all of us, and God expects us to love everyone everyone, regardless of our loyalty. And in our Christian literature, we are taught by the Lord Jesus to love God and to love our neighbor. Our neighbor is not only the one next to us, next door to us. Our neighbor is every human being. He tells us not only love your friends, but love your enemies. If there are such people as enemies, then we should love them also. And that's a universal message, I believe. We love our enemies, pray for those who hate us, bless those who curse us, then the whole world will be in peace and in harmony, and in everybody will have better life.
Right. So great talking to you.
Thank you.
His Holiness the Patriarch, and we hope that your mission will be successful in India as well as Kerala.